Don't you like that story in that first reading where he gets up and he says, "You're calling me." And the other man says, "No, I'm not." So and it'd be something if it happened only once, but it happened 3 times. Would you believe that part of the message today has to do with our ability to hear? Would you be surprised at that? Say yes, Father. Okay, you're good. All right. A long time ago when I started in chaplaincy, one of the secretaries for the group said this when she was asked questions about serving people who are sick in the hospital. And her answer was this: "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. What do you suppose is most important?" Our ability to be able to hear correctly. Now, many of us have experienced, because we have elderly parents or uncles and aunts who are dear to us and that we love dearly. And they developed this wonderful gift called selective hearing. Yes, I have one pointing to themselves right now. And in selective hearing, we know that they hear every single word that is said, but they pick the words they're going to respond to. Interesting process. Now, there are 2 extremes. So I say to those of us who are my age, we got to do a little bit more, a little less selective and a lot more hearing. For those of us who are younger, is that we need to be able to take time to listen carefully so that we understand what is being said. So in this reading today, in the first reading, you could go through the whole thing and not realize that we're talking about the ability to be able to hear correctly and take time. Any of you who are parents, any of you who are grandparents, any state that you've been in your life as a worker, you know how important it is to listen carefully, to understand what the instructions were. I can remember back right after the war, there were a lot of Polish people in my hometown of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they were called DPs. Do any of you know what that means? Yeah, displaced persons. So they're working their way into citizenship here in the United States. So these men would be called in on a day like this, and it was real interesting about them. It could be cold like this. The boss would say, "I need to have you here at 3 in the morning." What they did is that they were persons who checked the railway to make sure that the snow and ice would not impede any of the trains coming in. So my dad would go to this group, and he would explain to them in Polish what it is that they needed to do. And the remarkable thing about it was they always did their job. And they stayed on that job and they kept their job because they listened well and they were provided a way to listen. Of course they were learning English, but it was not clear. But all along our way in life, it is important to learn how to listen carefully. And when you do it, can I share something with you as a longtime counselor? Listening, thank you very much. Listening carefully is a lot of work. When I used to come back to my house up there on North Avenue, come back to the hospital, I used to be very, very tired. Because listening to persons, trying to understand what the need is, and then to respond to that. Now, this is one key thing that I want to share with you along with the importance of knowing that you have to listen carefully because the Lord gave us 2 ears and only 1 mouth. And it's therefore very important for us to understand that hearing is important. Sometimes when the hearing is not correct, people make wrong decisions. Each of us have been involved in that in one way, shape, or form. So today, we make a commitment that we have the gift of hearing, and during this new year, we're going to improve our ability to be able to listen. When we listen, there's an ancient Russian proverb which says, when I listen carefully to another person, when I make no judgment about what he or she has said, I bring that person into existence because I've affirmed who that person is. And that's what listening carefully is about. We're affirming that we heard what this person said, and it's not about agreeing with them. It's about hearing what they are experiencing and for you to respond and say, I do hear what you say. And it has powerful healing process when we're able to do that. Are we okay so far? Thank you very much. We have a few minutes left here. All right. Do you know what the second thing is in our reading today? Say yes. Okay. The second thing has to do with this knowledge. When God creates us, He puts a seed of love inside of each one of us. And as we are Christian Catholics, we believe in baptism. So when the parents bring the child forward, the child is baptized, we are giving life to this seed, so the seed begins to grow and the child begins to understand and know that he or she is loved and that she's to respond in love. What do parents, grandparents do with their little babies? Yeah, you can hear them. They have all kinds of little words they use. So there's some funny little words that I know growing up that they use in Polish, and any of you who are Polish may remember them. And it's budzi budzi. Budzi budzi. Yep. It means kisses. And so I could hear my aunt and uncle and others say to their kids, you know, they would pronounce their name and say budzi budzi, kisses. And when you watch the countenance of the child who hears this, the only expression they have and the only expression they know is that they're being loved. They're being loved. And what this teaches us is that you and I are to be persons who know how to nurture love in our own life and in the lives of those around us. You may have heard this from an old priest who said, commit yourself to doing one loving act after another. You know that old priest, don't you? Yes, Father. Yeah, that was a little too clear. All right. And this is the second point of this homily today. First was about hearing. This is about the fact that you and I are nurturers of the seed of love that's inside of each of our children. And you know what's amazing about that is? If you have a pet, you can nurture that in your pet. When you come home, unless your pet is sick, what does it do? It looks like you've been gone for 10 years. It's so happy to see you. And when you go home this afternoon after Mass, those of you who have pets, I personally have a hippo in my backyard, but that pet will respond to you in that special way. And you nurture that same kind of love because you've told the dog this over and over again. Said, you're such a good dog. You're just the best dog in the whole world, and I love you. Now, that dog heard that before, but you can see it in their eyes, and they begin to melt, and their tail almost goes loose from their bodies. A powerful, powerful expression of what it means to nurture love in other people as well as in animals. And they can teach us a lot. This lesson today is not difficult, but I want you to be able to understand the importance of this because you are a people, you are the Christian Catholics in this particular area, and we have a duty to make our world a better place by doing what I call one loving act after another. But that is best done when we have listened carefully and when we have nurtured that love, not only in the people around us, our children, but even in our pets. A sign that love is the most important thing in this whole world. And it becomes that way when we're good listeners, good nourishers.